Now, I have these, the sides, the outsides of the pedals back cut like that, and I have this outer ring. The shape it needs to be has got a little concave going into that crevice. Now I'm going to round over these pedals and make the divisions. There's 8 pedals. You can see the pedals have a little highlight thing in the very middle of them, but they're rounded over on the edges of the pedals. Right there's a better picture of the pedals, how they're rounded over on the outside edges, and they have a little slice in the middle of each pedal. And now there are 3 little cuts on this outer ring that outside of the pedal, in the middle of the pedal, there's 3 little grooves. Obviously with no finish on it, it's going to look a little different. But when you get some finish on that, see there's a little outline where the ring around the flower starts into the leaves, and that's this little ring, this little outline I've cut right here. I can't cut this too deep because some of the leaves start out close to the surface. Some of them are down deeper than this, but this is the border, the 1.1" border around this thing, like in that picture there. And then I'll start making the leaves. I'll draw the leaves out. I've got different pictures on my phone from screenshots. That's the right side, the very end of it. But I've got other pictures of the leaves. See how that starts out with 2 leaves going over here. You got one there and one there. And then I've got other pictures in the middle. See how those leaves, you can tell, they just kind of parade on out through there. I'm going to sit down and sharpen a bunch of chisels before I get that far. But anyway, got the flower done. Got the middle of it figured out and the thing laid out. All I like is finishing. Woo-hoo. I need to draw this pattern from this medallion to the edge. And what I've done is scaled out. This is a scale, this is a full scale. This is scaled down. I have measured from here to here, and that's 2 3/4. So I've measured to the middle of that, which is 1 3/8. And 1 3/8 takes me almost to the tip of that leaf right there. There's a row of leaves pointing up, a row of leaves pointing down, a row of leaves in the middle. And the ones in the middle do the center line of them, they kind of go up and then back down and then back up. And it's similar actually on both sides, not perfectly symmetrical, but it's similar. And so I'm going to try to sketch out half of this onto this piece of paper. I'm going to start at the end and work my way back. The end of this paper is the edge of this border. There's an 1 1/8" border from the end of the board to the end of the carving. So the middle leaf starts. Well, no, that's hard to do. I'm going to keep going from here and go out. Then there's a blank area at the end of this that's just flat, recessed, and stippled. I'll probably get a close-up from my pictures, my screenshots, and tell more about where this is, where these leaves stop. But it's something like that. So that's my leaf pattern. Now what I'll do is put a piece of carbon paper face down underneath this, make sure this is along the top edge, and then I'll do a firm tracing and put that carbon paper print to there. Now what I've done is put a piece of carbon paper, I doubled it. I'm making a tracing both underneath this paper and on top of this wood. The reason I did that is so I've got the carbon copy on the back side of this where I can flip this whole thing over and put it on the other side. Something like that. I got a fairly decent copy on this side. Fairly. I forgot the center line of this leaf. Alright, so once I put my edge lines on this side with a ruler, then I have pretty decent tracing to put on this left side of this carving. Pretty decent. There's an 1.1/8" border all the way down this, and all the carving tucks into that border, top and bottom, and actually from the finished end back this way is an 1.1/8". So all I got to do is cut a straight line if I can make a straight line in the middle of this grain. If the grain goes to the left or right, the knife usually wants to go left or right. If you can get it started straight, usually you can deepen it and it'll follow that first cut, and it'll stay fairly straight. Then I'll come back with a chisel to make that little beveled edge. Everything starts from that bevel edge going towards the middle. Nothing interferes with that bevel. And then I take a veining tool and highlight. I take the leaf that overlays, like this top one overlays this second one, and they both overlay the middle one. So I'm going to highlight the top one first. And you never know if you're going the right direction according to the grain until you dig into it. That Life is box of chocolates thing, yeah, well, it's like that with carving too. See that leaf right there? That's what I'm working on, that leaf right there. And you can see that behind that leaf to the above it there, get something to point with, you can see those little dots and how that border line comes across, and then it turns into that emblem, that round border, and then in between here you got all these little speckles and dots. And the leaf, see the middle of it is deep, and that's all I'm working on. This is the triangle with the speckles on it. There's the border line. There's the edge of the rosette, the round medallion part. And then between these two leaves, it just has a V. It's like they come out of the same place, elevation-wise, on that medallion, that border. You got the same kind of little triangle with a recess. Those little dots are kind of a modified stippling. We'll get into some stippling later. There's one part that's heavily stippled. So that's where that leaf is going.